G'day everyone. A lot of you will remember these tools on the bench in front of you. You'll remember my video I did of these 3/4 inch rivet guns. And while they are very cool, they are also very expensive. And a lot of us can't justify the sort of money that the companies want for these if you're only using it every now and again. Now, it's very good to be able to pull a 1/4 inch rivet because doing it manually can be rather painful. The crunching of knuckles and tearing of tendons as you try to use those horrible hand things can be, well, horrible. So today I'm going to try and show you a cheaper alternative because the ones on the bench here are, as I said, ridiculously expensive. The prices on these range all over the show. I mean, it's just madness from one country to another and from one shop to another, and even just on Amazon, the prices from different people selling on Amazon, it's all over the show. But you won't get any of them cheap, that's for sure. One of the cheapest ones is the new DeWalt one, which has just been released in the US, not available in most of the world yet. But as a kit, you're still looking at nearly $1,000 US. Same with the Milwaukee here on the bench, around $1,000 US as well. The Bosch will set you back $1,000 to $1,300 in the US for a kit. In the UK, that's about £800 for the kit. And as for the Makita, the price for that is all over the show. In the US on Amazon, it's over $1,500 US bare tool. No batteries, no charger. In the UK, substantially cheaper at only £570, which translates to just over 1,100 New Zealand dollars, which makes it about $400 cheaper than trying to buy it here. But that US price is around $500 US more expensive than it is to buy one in New Zealand or Australia. In New Zealand, the three of them on the bench here are all around $1,500 each. I did see one cheap Milwaukee outlier on Amazon in the UK, which was only £309, just over 600 New Zealand dollars. So there's some significant price differences amongst these tools, but they're all still really expensive. So today I bring you a cheaper alternative. This is the KD02X Plus 1/4 inch rivet gun from Minova. Now these guys are putting out a ton of tools at the moment, mostly rivet tools and insulation cutting tools. Insulation, you know, you're cutting through foam and that sort of stuff. They do a lot of that stuff. And a ton of rivet guns. I can't even remember how many there were. Can't even remember if this was the only 1/4 inch one or not. They're also doing rivet nut tools. And so when they said, hey, those other ones you've been reviewing are super expensive, we can do a kit with two 2 amp hour batteries and the tool in a case like this in the background here with a charger and all the bits you need for $200 US. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. You've piqued my interest. That's a pretty good deal considering the prices that we've just seen for the other brands. But is it any good? Well, they said, we'll send you one and you can try it out. You don't have to buy it, we'll just send it to you. Tell us what you think. They want to know what people think of these things. They've asked me to test a few different features because they want to know how this holds up, for instance, because they are scared that some people are going to think that the clear ones won't last. I mean, this is pretty solid. I mean, that's thick plastic. I'm not sure if it's polycarb or not. But they sent me a clear one. They sent me a black, larger one as well, so that we can test things out. So this one, as you can hear, already been using that. So which is better, that or that? I don't know. Up to you. I prefer just the size of that one for the amount of rivets I use. Now the kit that this comes in comes with two 2 amp hour batteries, but they have sent me a 4 amp hour battery as well to try out. So that's the 4 amp hour. And in the kit as well, they've got a bunch of extra pieces here. Unfortunately, none of them stay on the tool, none of these nose pieces for the different size rivets. But some of them are the retention ones that will hold the rivet mandrel, and some of them are the ones that just let it slide on through. Now, I've used this a few times, and of all the rivet guns I've used, Bosch, a couple of Milwaukee ones, a couple of Makita ones, Metabo, AEG, this one is the best one for the actual rivet mandrels ending up in here. When you pull it and just go like that, they slide through easily. Some of them poke back out the other end, you got to jam them, keep poking them in, and they're a bit of a pain. but this one actually slides through pretty nicely. Has a hook here on the top, which unfortunately is just a pretty flimsy plastic, but the rest of the tool does feel pretty solid. It's a pretty hefty beast, and I pretty much only want it because it does 1/4 inch. Now, not only does it do 1/4 inch, but it does 1/4 inch stainless, and it'll do hemlock rivets. I've got some of those to show you in the video. So it's a pretty tough tool because a lot of the 1/4 inch ones don't even do. I don't think the Makita one or the Bosch one are rated to do 1/4 inch stainless steel rivets, only aluminium. So this one is right up there with the large Milwaukee. I haven't looked at the specs for the new DeWalt yet. It's only just come out in the States and it's not here yet as far as I'm aware. So I probably won't refer to that again throughout this video. The batteries have indicators on, green lights, pretty standard stuff. So the nose pieces that it comes with come in a range of sizes from 1/8 of an inch or 3.2 millimeters, 5/32 of an inch or 4 millimeters, 3/16 of an inch or 5 millimeters, 7/32 of an inch or 6 millimeters, and 1/4 of an inch or up to 6.4 millimeters. But unfortunately, like I said, they don't go into the actual tool anywhere to hold on. You've got to store them separately. But the back of the mandrel holder here has a thing for undoing the nose pieces, so you can just stick it on like that, unscrew, and then screw in your next one. But yeah, they are not stored on the actual unit itself. And boom. The unit itself, pretty basic. It's got a belt hook, it's pretty sturdy, pretty chunky belt hook, and a little tiny light down the bottom. First trigger just turns the tool on. Once it's on, you pull the trigger and away she goes. And that's about all there is to it. So this is not a great location for pulling rivets, because if you have a look out here, it's a bit more oceany than sort of sheet metal or anything like that. So I think we're going to have to go back to tools and stuff land before we can actually use this thing. So, well, let's go do that now. I'm fast realizing I don't have enough space for the batteries I want to put on here. Still got a few different systems to go. I want to check on the M12 stuff. I'm not sure this system with the rivets is going to work too well because I had to drill another hole, but I need a very long rivet, or I need to come up with something different there. But I've also got, I'm going to stick some Ryobi 36 volt ones, probably off, that'll slide out the side. I've got the Ryobi 18 volt ones, got some Panasonic ones, and I've got a few other odds and sods that I may stick on there. I also wanted to stick on all the adapters. I've got quite a few of these battery adapters, and I thought I'll stick them all together in one area as well with the same mounting system. But I should have been a little bit tighter on the space. I didn't want to, end up crashing when I take things off and hitting my hand on things. So I've done them fairly spaciously, but also big enough so that, I can put on bigger batteries at a later date, move them around however I want to do it. But I can see some gaps and I'm going to have to fill or change a bit. So seeing as I've got a fair bit of gap here, because these don't need much to come on and off the 12 volt Makita, I think I'm going to drill out all these DeWalt ones and shift them up, get rid of those Bosch ones, I'll put them somewhere else. Maybe we'll put the M12 in here. Look at all the battery systems I've got to have just so I can keep you guys all happy. Now I'm having to do a double pull like the Bosch one, because this is a 25mm stroke, same as the Bosch, and so it doesn't quite have enough to pull up these 25mm long rivets, and so you've got to do a double shot, whereas the Makita and the Milwaukee have the 30mm stroke and you can do it in the one pull. Definitely drop into the mandrel collector much easier than any of the other rivet guns I've tried. Fingers crossed this one works. Did a bit of damage there to the stealth mount, but it seems to be good and solid. It's not surprising it did any damage. It is 20 kilonewtons of force this thing's pulling on. So that's over 2,000 kgs pulling on that little rivet, or nearly 4,500 pounds. Hopefully I can get those Milwaukee ones quite close together. But while I do that, let's go take a look at this thing pulling some stainless rivets and some stainless hemlock rivets. Actually, before we get on to the stainless rivets, I'll do one more aluminium one here. This is the test bed. I found it from the previous 1/4 inch video review that I did of the Makita, the Bosch and the Milwaukee. So we can just see if this pulls up the same with the Minova. So here we go. Looks to have pulled up just fine and dandy, possibly even better. Top side all pretty much the same. Can't get my fingernail under any of them, so yep, she's all good. Now going to use one of these hemlock rivets, which is too short to go through this steel. This is not designed for such a thick piece of steel, and I just want to see what will happen with it, because it's not going to be able to do that flat blind rivet up against the back. So how will it react? Let's take a look. Ooh, the gun did not like that. Oh, it's not happy. Is the light flashing on the top? No. Woo, it struggled a bit with that, because it's trying to get that. It was trying to get the flat surface that would normally be against the back. It's trying to pull that back up through the hole, and it's stainless and it's folded over a couple of times, and that was a big struggle for the tool. Kids, don't try this at home. But top side, she did pull up pretty nice, and it is a nice looking rivet, those hemlock rivets. These stainless ones, much nicer than these aluminium ones for the finish. Stainless rivet going through 3 sheets of shitty old garden shed, thin as anything. It's a 1/4 inch rivet, of course, and it's about 15 millimeters long. Let's see how she goes. Oh, we snapped off in one go there with the shorter rivet. Pulled up no problem, but did start to sort of almost pull through that bottom layer of thin, shitty shed. And that's where a hemlock rivet comes in handy. Let's try one of those. Hemlock, 3, 2, 1. Definitely has trouble with those, eh? Not happy. Not happy at all. Battery off. Battery back on. Try again. We'll get to why that struggled a little bit in a moment. If we take a look at the back of our 2 rivets here, you can see the standard rivet has left all the schwarf sort of sticking out the side, and it's almost pulled through it, and it won't be holding very tightly onto that piece of metal. Unlike this one, which has this little ring around it, it's like a little hat brim, where it's pulled all the schwarf up and it's gripping tightly onto the back of that, because it's got that flattened ring around it. So that is going to hold much better than this will over time. But you saw the tool did struggle. Now, when the guy sent it to me, he did say, tools, you might need to use the 4 amp hour battery to get the extra bit of oomph for the hemlock rivets. It can do them, but it does like that extra bit of power. So we'll try it again with a 4 amp hour battery and see how it does with that. 4 amp hour battery, hemlock, stainless rivet. One shot, no worries. You did hear it struggle a tiny bit. It's pulling up pretty quick, so it's not surprising. Looking at the back, it has pulled up nicely like the other one, probably a little bit nicer. Nice rivets, those. Let's quickly just look at the different types of rivets I've been using and what they're made up of. Most of you will be aware that a rivet is made of 2 separate parts. So you have the rivet itself, and you have a mandrel that pulls that rivet up. When the mandrel is done, it snaps, and that gets ejected into the back of your rivet tool, or ends up on the floor of your site. This is a mandrel from the aluminium rivets I've been using. If we take a look at the round end here, see it's being pinched. It's being pinched so that it will break easily. It's also got another sort of different style of pinch here, which is to help hold the rivet onto the actual mandrel. So it slides on and it's got that crimp there, and that will grip onto this so it doesn't fall off before you get to use it. And that bit there designed to break when you pull it. So that's the aluminium one, that's a stainless one, exactly the same design. And they end up with that bulbous head, pretty basic, nothing too complicated about it. Unlike the hemlock ones, which have a more complicated mandrel, they've got a very specific cut here, so they break at a perfect point, and they've got a different sort of crimping arrangement there. It's more of a knurled surface and a much nicer tip here that pulls your rivet up. If we take a look at the other stainless rivets I was using, you'll see it's a much nicer unit. And the rivet itself is different as well. Can we get in any closer? This lens doesn't want to get too much closer, unfortunately, but if we take a look at this rivet, if you look through the middle section, you'll see a couple of crimps. That is to help make it mushroom like this. Here is one I half pulled so you can see how they work. So we've got the head of the rivet here, and this is the back section, and that pulls up, as you will have seen in the shots I've just done, pulls up hard against the back of your material, much nicer than this, which is your standard rivet, which just, as you can see, that roundish head just pulls itself through with brute force, stretches out that stainless in this case, and that extra width stops your rivet from coming back through, but it's nowhere near as nice and nowhere near as efficient as this. When this is pulled up completely, it is like this. So you can see that nice little hat ledge there. You've also got a nice ring above that, pushing hard against your material. It's all much nicer, locked in place than your standard blind rivet. So that is the Minova 1/4 inch rivet tool. Of course, it goes from 3.2 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch up to that 1/4 inch or 6.4 millimeters. I noticed that there's a little light on the top here. I haven't actually seen it work. There is a thing explaining it here saying if the tool jams, you will get the light come on and you need to pull it apart and clear it out and stuff like that. I haven't had that happen, so that's not a problem. The hemlock rivets, use a bigger battery if you can. Now, I pulled about 10 of these before I made the video with the 2 amp hour battery, and they worked okay. And then of course, as soon as I used it on video, they started crapping out. Now that is YouTube law. That's just the way it works when you have a YouTube channel and you're a tool reviewer. Nature likes to do those sorts of things. But if you can, if you're going to use large stainless rivets, I'd recommend a 4 amp hour battery. Otherwise, a 2 amp hour is fine for all aluminium rivets. And I will only be using this thing for 1/4 inch rivets. I've got other rivet guns for smaller rivets, so this will be a dedicated 1/4 inch rivet tool for me. And for weight purposes, I will most of the time probably use it with the 2 amp hour battery, unless of course I want to do some of these complicated style rivets. Now there are a lot more different sorts of rivets. There's ones that flower and do all sorts of different things. So if you're doing anything weird like that, get the bigger battery. It's pretty cheap. It is a battery though that is only, from what I can see, usable on this unit. It's not like a Makita style or any other brand that I recognize from this. It's probably similar to something. One of you can point that out down in the description. No, down in the description. Down in the comments section. Down in the description. There will be, of course, links to get yourself one of these if you are interested. Remember, this as a bare tool is 10% the price of a Makita one bare tool. It's so much cheaper, and if it's only for occasional use like I'll be doing, this should last, no worry at all, I would think. So as usual, thanks again for watching, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe, the like. I'll see you all real soon. A lot of cool videos to come before the end of the year. Thanks for watching. Cheers guys.